hand it over to you, Marty.
Well, thank you, Dan, and good morning to all. And again, I'm the product manager for Leap. I've been with this product since its inception. Also with me, we have Christopher Dawes, who's on the development side of Leap. He's also in level 3 support. Many of you probably know him, and he'll help out with questions as needed. So let's get started. I've got a lot of good stuff to talk about. Uh, just in case there's somebody in the audience that's not totally familiar with Leap, it's a citizen developer tool. It's kind of a self-contained, self-service environment where business users go and they can build and manage their apps, they can run their apps, they can view their data, and you can create all kinds of interesting forms and business applications for workflow to improve productivity. And the key here is that you can do this as a business user without involving IT. As I mentioned, it's kind of a self-serve environment. But what's important is that IT has got ways to administer and control the environment and monitor the environment so that it's safe and they know what's going on. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into a lot of the newer things that we've introduced over the last couple of years, and from some of these charts, I'm going to jump into a demo and we'll show you them. The first item I'm going to talk about is a new way to install Leap. I'm not going to demo this, of course, but in the past, what we did is we gave you Leap, and you had to go install it on top of WebSphere, and then you had to configure it so that it worked with your database, which was either DB2 or Oracle. Well, now what you can do is download an image, or you can pull it from our repo called Harbor. And this container that we provide, it has Open Liberty in it. So this gets you out of the business of having to worry about WebSphere, right? We just simply give you a container and we manage that container as a single product, and you just configure it so that it works with your environment, with your messaging, your directory services, etc. You don't have to do anything to worry about security patches and that kind of stuff with the Open Liberty container. That's on HCL. So it changes the picture a bit, and it simplifies the deployment as well as the upgrade for the product. We also introduced another database option, Postgres. And this makes it very convenient to go to a hosting service like AWS or Google Cloud or Microsoft, because they all have their flavors of Postgres, which are there, which are at a very good rate, and they all have their Kubernetes services, which are at very good rates. So you can run it in any of those environments, and you can do it quite inexpensively. I will add that in the latest release, just December, we did verify, and we now formally support DB2 version 12. I know that was something that some of our customers have been asking about, so I added that to this chart here. Um, Not too long ago, we added some additional support for Microsoft Entra ID. This is formerly known as Azure Active Directory. Many organizations have their directory in Microsoft's cloud. We do at HCL here. And there's a couple of aspects of how Leap uses a directory. One is for authentication, just getting in the Leap door, right? And the other is once you're in Leap, it's very convenient if you could look up users. If you're going to define a new role and assign members to a role, as an example, you need to easily pick names and groups from the directory. So that's what I would refer to as directory services. Um, so we've always had the ability to support Entra for authentication via OIDC. But what's new is we've added some very good documentation now on how to do that. But what is new is the support for using directory services against Entra. And we're doing this through the Graph API. right? So you don't have to do anything in terms of an LDAP protocol in front of Active Directory anymore. You can just use the native services in Entra to do this. So this is a major convenience for many organizations that have gone down this path of directories in the Microsoft Cloud. Um, Not too long ago, we introduced, so I'm staying on this theme of setting up the product and administering it. So not too long ago, we introduced the admin dashboard. So if you're in the admin role of Leap, you will see this on your Leap page. And it gives you a view into all the different applications which are out on the server. And I'll just bounce out of this real quick and go over to my browser and look at my Leap. So I'm running Leap on my laptop. It's just me. It makes it convenient because I can be the admin in this. Um, but you'll see here I've got this admin tab here next to manage, which everybody sees. Well, I shouldn't say everybody. Everybody that can build apps will see. And this is telling me all the different apps which are on my server, and I can sort through these, and I can click into one. I can see details, the different forms in it, the IDs. I can see the total number of records. Um, I can see who is the owner of something, etc., and I can export all this to a spreadsheet. I also have an API if I wanted to take this information and factor it into something else. So that's the admin dashboard, right, on the admin side. And then we also added, and this is a page which is off the manage page that everybody knows. This has its own security context, and it's called the Leap admin configuration page. And the reason why this has its own security context is because you can make changes to how Leap is deployed. In the past, the only way that you could configure and make changes to your deployment was either through WebSphere or through the properties file, which is a file which is out on the server someplace. It's a little difficult to make changes to the property file if you've got an image which is out there or a container. So this becomes a convenient way to do that. And it also augments whatever properties you've set. This is kind of something which layers on top of that. So what it allows you to do is, and there's some new things you can do here that you couldn't do before. It allows you to define services and define who's able to use those services at a global level. So you can think of this as kind of a, let me do the grunt work of this service integration definition once, and then everybody can benefit from it. All right, so it simply just shows up in their service catalog, and they can just map the inputs and outputs into their app. You can also get into things like whitelists and file types and sizes and JavaScript restrictions, whether you want it to be secure, login messages, etc. So let's bounce over to my admin again. So this is the admin page. We'll just make this a little bit bigger here and move that over. So you can see app authors to use JSON REST service from any domain. So this is if I'm building REST services directly into my app. If I want to put in a URL and define the gets or the post, etc. I can restrict the domains that people can do that from, or I can leave it wide open. I can get into what we call service descriptions. So these are at a global level, as I was referring to before. And you can do this in a couple of different ways. You can use this JSON REST builder, or you can upload the XML definition. So in the past, and this currently works, is you can take that XML definition of your service and you can place it out in a certain directory on the server, and it'll show up as a service available to everybody. Well, now what you can do is you can take that XML and you can upload it here. And you could also define for that service who's able to use it, right? So the JSON REST builder, it looks very similar to um, the one that is in the IDE that you would build specific to your app, but it's simply on a global level. So here you would give it the URL, the methods, etc., and you'd go through and see the outputs, the inputs, define any headers that you want, security on this, and then you can get into who's able to use this and who's able to build with it. Right, so this is the security around it. Right, so we'll cancel out of that. Um, so that's the config panel. We'll come back to that in just a bit. Um, so HCL has a low-code family of products called VoltMX, which Leap is part of, right? And there's a piece of software in this family of low-code software called Foundry. And what Foundry is, it's a middleware piece of software that allows you to define integrations. And you typically define integrations to support an application, or maybe there could be integrations that support multiple applications. So what we've added is this ability to essentially discover and use Foundry services in Leap, right? And what this does is it opens up the door to a lot of new interesting integration possibilities for Leap. So let's take a look at this. So let's go back to my browser. So this is Foundry. All right, so this is my demo account. It's running up in the cloud. And what I have here are a bunch of different Foundry applications. And the idea is that this is a backend set of services that you manage, and it supports some front end. All right, and that could be a web front end that you're building. It could be a Leap application. It could be something that you're developing in another IDE called Iris. But in this case, what I did is I created an app called Salesforce, and I have a Salesforce account. So I went ahead and I got a developer account from Salesforce. They're free, and I put in my credentials here. And then in terms of integration, um, I went ahead and I defined a couple of what we call operations. So given that connection to my Salesforce account, what do you want to do? So I have an operation here to get a list of accounts and get a list of products, right? So if I wanted to build another operation, well, I could pick, and here what it's doing is it's introspecting the Salesforce data model. So anything that's out there in Salesforce. So if I wanted to, I don't know, do something with cases, uh, it just introspects it, and then you could create, get, update and delete. So create operations on any element that's in there. I don't have to know anything about the Salesforce query language. And you can, if you want to create new services, you can come in and you can select from any kind of connector, whether it be a relational database, SOAP, maybe it's a JSON URL, maybe you have a Swagger definition that you want to use. In this case, I was using Salesforce. And there's a marketplace which has got hundreds of other connectors out there. So the bottom line here is what Foundry does is it becomes kind of this API hub where you can manage all your integrations. And the beautiful thing here is that with these operations that I have, the get list of account and get list of products, on the Leap admin side, what I did is I came over here and I said, okay, I've got this app here in Foundry called Salesforce, and I gave it some information about that app, which includes an alias for the app key and secret in the service URL to my Foundry account. And then what it does is it sees the services, and then I can define the user authorization around this inside of Leap. So when I come over to Leap as a business user and I say, oh, I'm going to create a new application and this is my app. And then I could say, well, let's go get a drop down and we'll stick that there. And let's go get a service out of the catalog, as opposed to me typing in the names of everything in the drop down. And so here in the service catalog, and I was just on Salesforce, so it's coming to this, and you can see get a list of accounts, get a list of products, which is exactly what's here, because that's where it's coming from. And Foundry is getting it from here's the accounts and here's the products. But all the other services that I defined are there too. So I did something with MySQL, some other APIs that I had access to. So for the business user, it becomes quite easy to say, okay, I got a standard list of something that I'm using in my organization, somebody defined a service. I don't need to know anything about it. I can just simply go and get, the data that I want, and I can use that as kind of the source of truth for populating this dropdown. And, we preview that, and we see that it goes and it grabs that information from Salesforce, right? So there's all my accounts, and including the sample account here, which did I put that over here? Yes, I did. There's a sample account in here as well. So that's the Foundry integration, which is quite powerful. If you have Foundry as part of the landscape, you get to use that with Leap. So let's go back to here. Another thing that we did, seeing that Foundry is often in a landscape with Leap, is we added the ability for Foundry to keep track of the use of Leap applications. Now, before I showed you the Leap admin dashboard, that just simply gave you a picture of everything that's on the server, right? And the forms and records and that kind of stuff. It doesn't tell you the usage of the apps, the final apps that were built. It doesn't tell you usage of those. It does. With the admin dashboard will tell you when it's been last updated the app. Maybe somebody went in and made an edit to the app and updated it with some new feature. But in terms of apps that are running, it's not really giving you a picture into that. Well, now with Foundry, you've got that ability to see it. So if I go back over to Foundry, and since I have this Foundry connected to my Leap instance, in Foundry, you've got this ability to look at reports. And if I go to, let's say, I don't know, application usage detail, and I want to pick a period here where I know I was using Leap a bit on my laptop, let's say the month of October. And I'll select that, and then we'll go and generate the report. It showed me the different Leap apps that I used and the amount of usage. So essentially, it's the Leap app, it's the session, it's the date. So I was doing something here with a Google Gemini service for a while, and I was using this Uno agentic service for a while with some Leap application and some other things. And you could export that and do stuff with it. So that's another cool way that you've got visibility into what's going on in the server. So we'll keep going with this. Uh, Recently, so this was just last fall, we introduced some major updates to the REST APIs in Leap, which bring it up to the Open API 3.0 spec. So we'll show you this. This is another one that lends itself to demo. Let's go back over to, I'm sorry, click on that icon here. Let's go to my manage page, and we'll go grab an application here. Let's say this hardware software requests. So when you click this little chevron, I guess you'd call it, on the app, you get some more options and you can see things in detail. Under URL links, now what you do is you get the links not only to the form and the app pages, but you get links to the APIs. Right. So in this app, there's a couple of forms, a request form and a catalog form. So they contain data. Application operations, this refers to the importing and exporting and updating of the app. So there's a Swagger page for all of these. So I simply request that and it brings me to the Swagger page. Right. So I can see everything about this endpoint for this Leap application. I can go and authorize, and we introduce the ability to use bearer tokens for authentication with services now. So if somebody's logging in with OIDC and there's an OIDC token there, and that's the token that you want to use when this service is called with this custom web app that you built, well, you can do that, right? As opposed to resorting to just simply basic auth. And then you've got all the different methods that are available for this particular app, so I can simply go and try it out. If you're familiar with Swagger, then this is kind of what you'd expect. You can see the JSON coming back, etc. So that's all new on the API side. All right, let's go back to the slideshow. Uh, Custom widgets. So this was a big feature. People often asked us, "Hey, can I put my own widgets on the page?" And there's a couple of reasons why this was important to people. One was maybe some functionality they wanted wasn't in the product. Well, you can introduce it to the product now. A second was, well, maybe we have our own standard widgets which conform to our design library in our organization, and we want whatever we build with Leap to look like everything else, right? And we've actually we have a customer that has hidden all the Leap widgets and introduced only their widgets. So you have this ability to go in and define your trays and your widgets, and then you could also hide ours. So it essentially gives you this ability to leverage Leap as kind of a scaffolding for building stuff. So you get all the services that you normally get with Leap, and we'll dive into a demo of this here quickly. Let's go back to the IDE, and let's say that we're going to build a new application, and we'll give it another creative name. And so I've got a few sample widgets here loaded up. So maybe I want this rating. I've got a survey. So this, you see it here, kind of WYSIWYG. I preview it. You're going to see it. You could preload it up to a certain level. It is a data widget, so that represents the number 4. That represents the number 5. Uh, you can, determine whether or not you want to see the value for that in the view data, etc. It has events like everything else. You can set rules on it like anything else. So even though it's not a native widget in Leap, it's kind of a custom one that we added. And by the way, we have a whole library and some educational samples here that you can use, so you can see where I got it from. And this repo of examples, you can get to this through the documentation. Just search on custom widgets and you'll get right to it. So you can start to introduce this functionality, things like a signature, if you want to add that. You want to add some graphics, you can do that. We had one customer that they wanted all their forms to have a standard page stepper and then a standard footer at the bottom. So they went and they built that. So that's the whole world of custom widgets. Some really cool things there. Let's go on. Improved build app from spreadsheet. So in the past, what we did, if you built from a spreadsheet, we built the form and then we imported all the data from the spreadsheet. And essentially what you got was a form view of each record then. each which was a row in the spreadsheet, and you could go view all the data in view data. Well, now what we do, since we have app pages and we have navigation, is we not only create the form, but we create the app page, and we make the app page the home page, and we add the navigation. So when you click on a record in the app page data grid, you get to the form with the view of that record, and then you can go back and then you can do new form, etc. So it gives you more of a complete application in leveraging the fact that the app page and the navigation exists. Um, so that's a time saver for a lot of people. I'm going to save a little bit of time there and not demo that. Um, this is a little one that I like a lot. Um, it's preview in the same tab, and you may have noticed that if you're on 937 or later, that you don't necessarily have 22 tabs open in your browser when you're sitting there building something and previewing. Uh, it'll just refresh the one tab each time you make some changes. So it's a bit of an easier time cleaning up. Some user improvements we made with rules. So we flip the order of the logic in the rules dialog. Right, so it follows more of a if this condition, then do this. Where in the past it was the opposite, right? And we also added some sorting on the rules. And if you're doing rules properly, you will put a rule name in there. And if you're looking at all the rules, now what you can do is you can sort, and it gives you an easier ability to then go in and find the rule that you want to make some changes to, um, and work with it. Another big feature that we added is, and I'm calling it more complex rules. Some people have said, well, you should call it more powerful rules because it's not really complex to do. But this is the idea of combining and or conditions, right? And before, what you could do is you could have a string of conditions, if this or this or this, but you couldn't have if this or this or this and this or this or this. You couldn't combine the two, but now you can. So I thought about, well, what's the practical example of looking at this? Something we can maybe understand. So I did come up with something. We'll take a look at it. So I have this, there it is, this job application. I'll just run it right now. So the logic in this job application form is, you're eligible if you have a bachelor's degree or higher and you're a citizen, or if you're not a citizen, that you have a work permit, right? So if you're not a citizen, you don't have a work permit, no. If you are a citizen, well, we don't care. If you're a postgraduate, well, that's as good as a bachelor's degree, so we're fine, right? If you have 3 years of experience in your bachelor's, or maybe it's one, you're fine. If you're out of high school, nope, you need at least 5 years, right? So you can see how this is adjusting based on these and or conditions. So how do we define that in the app? Let's take a look at it. So I'll come over here and I'll click on any one of these items which are involved in the rules, and I'll bring up the rule dialog. So I've got a couple of rules here. One is to determine whether you're eligible, and then I've got kind of the converse to determine whether you're not eligible. And based on whether you're eligible or not eligible, I'm showing you that either blue or red message. So the eligibility is, and this is the shorthand view of the logic, versus getting in, and here you see how you can edit it. Years experience greater than equal to 5, or bachelor's or postgraduate. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. And um, you're a valid citizen or you have a work permit, right? So pretty straightforward, but powerful. And I'm sure there's lots of scenarios out there where you need to combine this sort of logic. In the past, how would you handle this? Well, you'd have to write some JavaScript. Now you don't have to. All right, let's keep going. We added in 939 a new theme. It's cleaner, it's simpler. It adheres to the style guidelines that we have here at HCL called Enchanted, which is why we named it Enchanted. Some things which are a little bit different. By default, the section backgrounds are a light gray. The fonts are a little bit lighter. You don't see those blue bars on top of the section headers anymore. And of course, if you like the old theme, it's still there. But you have the option, any apps that you have, to change the theme to the new theme. And of course, you can make changes to themes as well. All right, let's talk about the my task page. Right, so this is new 9.3.11, which was just out in October. And essentially, it's just a page that the user can see, which has got a list of workflow tasks that need their attention. Right, so pretty straightforward. Uh, the key here, though, is it's not specific to a Leap app. It could be any number of different Leap apps. So your task page is going to monitor whether or not there's workflow items that have been assigned to you from any Leap apps which are on the server. Why is this useful? Well, if you have any team or organization that's using a number of different Leap apps for workflow purposes, it gives you a place to go and just monitor what you need to do. In the past, the only way that you could monitor what needed your attention was with an email notification. Well, you can still do that too, but here you've got a task list which you can just put in front of somebody. So let's say there's field service workers that they're routinely interacting with a bunch of different workflow applications, all built in Leap. And everything's here, and they can just check off the items that they need to do and be done with it. Same with managers that are seeing lots of different approvals and different apps in Leap, etc. So lots of different scenarios for this. Uh, it works in Leap itself, but we realize that in many cases, what you might want to do is take that task list by itself and just put it in another web page or maybe in another app. So you can frame it into another app, and there's also an API for it too. Right? So if you wanted to use that API and integrate with something like Microsoft Teams, you could do that. It's a way of servicing tasks for a user to deal with from Leap. Now, how does this work? We introduced in workflow this notion of setting an assignee. Right? So it's as simple as when the record's in this stage, this is who it's assigned to. Right? And you could do this with a dynamic sort of assignment, or maybe it's static. Whenever it's in this stage, Sally always gets it. Nobody else but Sally gets it. So let's take a look at this in action. So I'm going to get out of this here. So here's my Leap desktop again. Of course, I'm admin, so I see all the different tabs. Manage is the one I see by default. We took a look at admin. But there's also use, and you have the option of turning use off if you want to. This is just simply a list of applications which you can run if you have access to them. Some people are not that good at setting access controls, and they like to turn this off for fear that people are going to run applications they shouldn't, which is fine. But then there's my tasks, and this simply just shows up here. And there's a number of different apps, you can see them here, where I have records in certain stages and they're assigned to me, right? And you can set the time frame too. that you want to see. Maybe you want to only see things that have been assigned to me in the last month, last 6 months, whatever. So all these different records, if I click on one of these, it'll open it up, right? And then I can act on it, right? And this is a completely different app, and I can act on that, right? Um, so how does this work? Well, let's go into manage, and let's go find one of those was a deal form. So we'll pick that up. And I'm going to come over here to edit, and we see the form, and we'll go over to workflow. So these are the different workflow stages. So I've got it's submitted, it's active, it can be updated, it's done. Looks like it can be reactivated. So in these stages here, post submit, I've got these permissions which you can set. And instead of using the precision, the permissions, what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, when it's in this stage, this is who it's assigned to. It's assigned to the current user of the form. And I made it generic like this so I could demo this easily. And I'm the only user on my laptop instance of Leap, so I'm always the current user. So I always see this in my task list. But hopefully you get the idea. So you can either look up the user that you want to assign it to, or you can pick a value from the form. Now you may have some logic in the form that figures out who needs to work on it. Maybe it does some service lookup, or it figures out who the current user is. And then you simply just pick the field in the form, right? And that's who it's assigned to. And then they would see it in their task list. So you can use the assignee as a way to do task assignments for workflow. You can also use the roles as a way to do assignment. But in some cases, the roles with the permissions, it gets a little bit confusing to some users, the concepts that are there. And we're hoping that just a simple task assignment simplifies that, makes it easier for users. All right, so that's my task list. Let's go on. And we did find a few goodies that I want to talk about here in the December release of Leap. So this is 9.3.12. This is one that many customers that have been using Leap for a while, and they have some applications that have lots of records. And when they want to move the application with all the records to another server, perhaps they're moving from DB2 to Oracle or something like that, and they want to move the app with all the records. If you've got a lot of records, sometimes you get a timeout when you're doing the import, and you just can't get all the data in. So importing a lot of records has been a problem in the past. Well, we've made a couple of changes. So when you're doing an import, the records are streamed. In the past, what we did was we waited till all the records were loaded into memory, and then we did a save. The other thing that we did was we added a configuration option to Leap, so that if you want Leap on an import to automatically do a save after X number of records, you can do that. So maybe every couple of hundred records save, or every 1,000 records save. Right, so this helps ensure that those large applications now you can move them and import them into a new instance of that app, perhaps on another server with even a different database. All right. Another interesting add to 9.3.12 is this ability to handle images intelligently in an email submission where there's a rich text field which has an image that has been inserted into that email. So if you're familiar with putting together an email in Leap, you have this ability to go and you can insert values from the form, right? And if is a rich text field, which is in the form. You can grab that rich text field and you can put it in the email body, right? So in the past, that all worked fine, except for the images. If the image was a URL reference, well, yeah, you get the URL reference to work, but what if the image was, just pasted in to the rich text body? Well, they didn't really come forward in the email. Well, now what we do is we take that image and we add it as a physical attachment to the email and include it that way. All right. So if you want to go and take Leap and create some creative things and send those creative things out as email, um, messages, the rich body of the message, you can do that in Leap now. So it's an interesting new use case that we ran into. So that's where we're at, the latest December release. I didn't go over every little feature. I mean, there's more. There's new JavaScript API things and other little minor features and behaviors that we've changed, but I'm trying to hit the highlights given the time frame that we have here. Um, that's essentially my content. Again, Leap is a citizen developer tool. We're focused on business users, letting them build things that are good for their business, and to do it in a way where it's easy and IT can stay uncontrolled. And we're continually trying to expand the possibilities with adding things like services, and additional integrations into Leap with things like the custom widgets. So that's all I have. Dan, back to you. You want to open it up to questions?
Yeah, we could take questions. I don't see anything in the chat right now, but if you have a question, type it into the chat. You can also raise your hand if you want to, and maybe I can open up your microphone. We'll see if I can do that or not. We'll give you a couple seconds to get them ready. Oh, we have a question coming from Matthias. Many of the shown features seem to be available in hcl-leap and domino leap. Where are the current gaps?
Where are the current gaps between hcl-leap and domino leap? Well, there's things that domino leap does that hcl-leap doesn't necessarily do. One is has built-in integration with Domino services. So if you want to interrogate the Domino directory, if you want to access the Domino database, you've got built-in capabilities for that. But that seems to be natural for Domino customers. Um, so that's in Domino Leap. It's not in Leap. Another thing it's in Domino Leap. It's not in Leap. Is reminder notifications. So if you have a workflow, you can set an interval where somebody is going to get a reminder notification. Hey, you didn't act on this yet. You need to approve this. We do plan to add that to Leap at some point. We just haven't gotten to it. For the most part, they are the same. We actually release them at the same time. It's the same code. The whole front end code is all the same. The differences really lie in the back end infrastructure. Domino versus your database, Pickett, Postgres, DB2, Oracle, and Open Liberty or WebSphere. That's where the differences lie. There are a few minor things I think might be in Leap that are not in Domino Leap, but it's very minimal at this point. I mean, Christopher's on. He can maybe expand on that.
Yeah, at this point, the function we've done a really good job of trying to make sure that the functionality is the same across both. There's obviously, as Marty said, the big feature reminders in Domino Leap that's not in Leap, and the direct connections with the Domino infrastructure, and but there's like little things like right now you can't stop Domino Leap app, but you can stop an app in Leap. Trying to think anything else. There's a couple of like little things, but for the most part, we've tried to make them the same.
All right, I don't see anything else. Herbert posted a nice link for some integration with digital experience in the chat. I don't see any raised hands. Any other closing thoughts then, if we don't have any questions? Marty or Chris?
Well, I hope this was, value to you. You got some insights that are here. Send us through the ideas portal, the AHA ideas portal, your ideas. We're interested in taking Leap where you think it needs to go.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. And next week we are going to talk about Volt MX. So it's related to Leap in a way there. So we'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
Thanks all.